Hello, my name is Helen Beckett. I'm the Community Manager of the Business Value Exchange. And today I have with me Fergus Lynch. Fergus has recently moved into the CIO consulting arena from former roles as CIO in the business school and telecom sectors. Hi, Fergus.
Hi Helen, how are you this morning?
Good, thanks. And you?
Very well.
I know from an earlier conversation you told me that in your new consulting role, you're coming across some common themes from CIOs, the reasons you're being called in to give them a hand. Can you talk us through this?
Sure. So primarily what I do is I'm brought in as an independent consultant to review corporate strategy. Quite often this will be just before a major technology procurement's about to be made. And I'm there to sanity check that the right product's been chosen, that the strategy, the product fits in the strategy, and the strategy has itself has got a long-term future, taking into account how the market changes. Now, as part of the strategic reviews, yeah, I do see a number of common themes, and one of them, which I find particularly interesting, is the disconnect between the board level view of technology investments and IT, and actually how technology is used and how effective it is on the shop floor.
So this disconnect, is there any reason for why that's happening? This misperception or disappointment that CEOs are finding at the end of a project delivery?
I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think that whether intentionally or unintentionally, CIOs or the IT function we're presenting to the board can be overly optimistic about the success or otherwise of IT projects.
Okay.
And that can be for a large number of reasons. It can be because IT themselves don't actually understand how effective or how successful their systems are being, and how efficient they are. And I think it's also to do with the transparency as well of IT to the board. And I feel that, or I see quite often, IT not really being fully transparent with the board about the status of major IT programs. Not always, but sometimes, and transparency is really key.
Gosh, that's really interesting. So there's an over-optimism happening and perhaps an overselling by the CIO or the IT chief to the board. I wonder if there's any pressure being brought to bear upon the IT function nowadays because their boards are wanting them to add value all the time. Is this part of the reason for this oversell?
It is all about adding value, and that's the phrase that most CIOs now hear at the boardroom. It's about adding value. It's not about saving costs. It's about adding value to the
Yeah.
bottom line. I think that kind of, if you take the over optimism, is it comes from, or the factors that push that are many. Sometimes it can be the vendors over optimism. I mean, the marketing campaigns can be quite epic, can't they, for
Yeah.
some of the products we see in corporate Britain. It can also be if a corporate project is being third party managed. It can be the systems integrators themselves being over optimistic about the timescales, for instance, for implementing the projects. I find it interesting when a CEO who hasn't used his own company's systems actually uses the system to see what it's like. So uses the CRM system, uses the ERP system. And when there's a disconnect, when the CEO's expectation is wildly different from the reality, that can be interesting for all involved.
Interesting. That's a good word. So it sounds like there needs to be this fine tuning of expectations that throughout a project. I mean, are there any other basic governance procedures that a CIO needs to keep an eye on?
Well, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because all corporations have, or corporates have governance of one form or another, and it might be IT may or may not have a presence directly on the board. Quite often they're reporting through the CFO, for instance. There can be lots of issues. There can be time, simple the amount of time that's given to IT issues at the board level. In my experience, it's quite interesting when board members read the board pack, how often many of them skip over or just skim read the IT section and jump straight to the sales figures.
Right.
So it can be the board themselves actually paying attention to IT, and it can be IT not having enough time, board level time to represent what's happening with their programs, and it can be the combination of that over optimism from IT. But governance is pretty simple. There needs to be really clear pre-agreed reporting, and that needs to be less interpretive and quantitative where possible. Are deadlines being met? Is the ROI being achieved? And if that can be measured and that can be put in a chart or a graph, great. Interpretative information can be given a spin, given a gloss. And in the end, it doesn't really help IT if on paper the development system looks great, but actually in reality, it's got major problems. And
So
that's
some
normally when
really
I'm brought in.
valuable feedback there, Fergus, about managing expectations and letting the board see that where the real value is being delivered, and following the governance procedures there. So we look forward to hearing more about that on a future occasion, perhaps. Thanks.
Thanks very much, El. Good to speak to you.
Cheers.